good morning almost in some cases, whether you're on the East Coast or whether you're in the South or, even if you're on the West Coast, still, you know, a moderate evening at times in terms of time right now. But I just wanted to say, I was all set to do. I'm sorry about the buffering. If you're out there, I'm sorry if you're experiencing buffering or inconsistency in the stability. But I was saying that I was all set to to bring in a bit of satire, but I think it's not timely, so I decided not to. But the situation with Ohio, I it gets to be. I think I think that many things are test runs, and they're going to choose if something's a test run. You may not do. You kind of gauge your targets. You gauge your study. And this just has a really ominous, there's something very ominous about this. It's not unheard of. Um, I mean, the government that we have, I find it to me, I'm kind of linking two things in my mind about this, that there's a kind of a corporate and an industrial elite that doesn't really, they're not accountable for anything. I mean, we have plenty of towns. Hi, mentally illust radio. I'm not sure. We have many, we have many small towns, and it's one thing about this. The charm to me, there's a charm about a small town, and that you can have a small town, and you can have those railroads, and yes, and one thing about a railroad, what happens, it never stops. But these aren't just small towns. There are people there, there are hardworking people in these towns. There are children in these towns. There are, and whether they're working class or not, they have dreams and they have hopes and aspirations. And many times I find that most people just want to be able to raise their families. They want to be able to provide for their families, and they want to be able to. There are the people still want to be able to raise their kids in safe environments, and but I find that this type of atrocity, or the casualty, it's much more. It goes on for a long time. It reaches beyond what the news is going to cover. But of course, it's also controlled. The narrative is going to be controlled either by the corporation, and then of course you bring in the big brother, the government, and these corporations. They both kind of drive. I think one drives the other. I think there are times where the corporation drives, or they're driving along they appear to be driving along alone by themselves, but then at some point, to me the entanglement, they're going to save face, and they're going to be protected by the government, and then the government's going to decide then how much of a hands-on approach they're going to have. And I'm just saying, to me, this situation with the Ohioans and what's happened to them reminds me of a small town. I don't know why. The effects to me are going to be very similar. I remember Monsanto. There was a town in the state of Alabama that, due to levels of toxicity, that was mismanaged and just simply neglected. The neglect on the management of it has had effects on the town and its people for decades. In fact, I was able to witness some of it. And that's I'm saying this that kind of made me change the tune of or change the tone of what I wanted to talk about tonight. Yes, because once you get contamination in your creeks and your riverbeds, and once this thing, and they know, everybody talks about the science and all of this kind of thing, and then they're so quick to the fact that FEMA has been, it just seems like they've been on the fence, or one minute they're not really consenting to do anything, but then the next minute they are. But will FEMA go far enough? Will the EPA go far enough? That always, to me, that's going to be the bigger question. And I just think that this is the type of warfare that we're going to be dealing with. And I don't know how to say, everybody, I don't know how to say get prepared, get prepared. I mean, if you're waiting for a four-letter agency to come to your rescue, if you're waiting for the EPA to come to your rescue, it is not. I wouldn't put my. I wouldn't put much stock in it, because these companies, they have they have the resources to make things. They have the resources, and then they have a responsibility to be transparent. But are they? That's what I don't know. I mean, people, and the word to me, lawsuit to me has a little bit of obsolescence in there. You can't put a price on people's lives. You can't bargain people out of a future that they can't even see. You can't you just can't. Because once you're exposed to carcinogens or whatever it is, you have no idea how long it's going, what the effects are, what the long-term effects are. And then, they put these people on the news, and, you know, I I'm just amazed at the amount of people that really rely on those those reports, and rely on these reporters to give them, you know, you guys are actually taking directives from these people. I'm just amazed. It's not uncommon, but I'm just saying, it's just, it is what it is. You don't have a safety net with news. Quote, news, and quote. You don't have that. You don't. And see, unfortunately, a lot of times when you're dealing with small towns and when things like this happen, first of all, whoever the offender is already, they've already gone in and started mining, or trying to figure out the demographic, or the type of intelligence that the people of the community possess. They might think you're these are a bunch of dumb, or these are a bunch of, you know working class people. They don't deserve, they only deserve so much this, they only deserve so much that. And then, I just think that's kind of like where the rubber meets the road. And I think that the government's going to be driven by that as well, because of all their studies and all their science. It's not really, it's not going to be black. They'll make it black and white for themselves, no matter what the nuance is for the actual people. The situation that happened with the PCBs with Monsanto's and Aniston, I'm sure they underestimated those people too. I mean, the town, that particular town, happens to be, it's 50+%. It happens to be Black Americans there. But of course, that industrial plant or whatnot was around, you know, in the 20s. I mean, Yeah, it was an industrial plant that sprung up in the early, in the 20s. But my bottom line here is that, have we really changed? Have we really evolved that much? I mean, that something like that could happen in a town, in an Ohio town, and people are going to be treated with dignity and respect, and they're going to be given the type of, assistance that they need, or what, I just, it just seems like the country is just so full of, it's a very inflated, we just, our identity to me is well off. Yeah, it's just things that just don't, that just don't add up. They're just not aligned, because on a foreign, we look really weak these days on a global stage. But most things that are happening in this country are terribly mismanaged, whether it be EPA, or whether it be management, emergency management responses. It's all pretty mismanaged. I mean, what's the history? I mean, I go back to Hurricane Katrina and I look at that. There's another, and that's, and to me, when people reach out for these agencies, it's like, oh yeah, because that's worked so well in the past. But it's like, even the government doesn't even respect the people. You've got Harris up there yapping about, Russia. Um, I'm telling you, these people are. It's like there's an underground. That, to me, it just seems like these people just kind of pop up, but but they do nothing. They actually don't do anything. They're just figureheads. But like I said, I guess it can. God bless the people in Ohio that have been affected by the situation, and for any other towns, because to me, this is the kind of warfare I think that's going to be on the horizon, and it's going to be swift, and it's going to, and most people will just look around. Oh, that could never happen in my town. I mean, the cognitive dissonance. You would think that it has not. It's gotten worse. And I say since 2020, I was talking to somebody earlier today. Like, it seems like the cognitive dissonance got worse post 2020. It has gotten worse by multifold worse. So much worse. And it's not even reported. Like, this story is getting no attention, little or no attention. Yet they keep taking the American taxpayer money and just dumping it into a pit of, nobody knows, it's just this pit of foreign entanglements, and that we're doing, that we're dumping money into. But to me, even on top of that, it's like, what is it? I mean, what is it even worth at this point? You can't put a dollar value on people's survivability, how it's going to affect generations to come. You just can't. I mean, like I was talking about, like these small towns, when things like this happen, you'll run into people the people who are directly affected by this. This will be something that'll be talked about, for some time. The children in that area will be affected by it. Their families will be affected by it. And then this company, or the EPA or FEMA or the government, will step in and let them, and the company will throw them a few shekels, that really, you know what? What's the going rate? I mean, this is the future of, we're talking about the future of this country, and people that are affected by things like this. You'll see the children in the education system. You'll see the children in the schools that are affected by it. They'll have learning disabilities. They'll have conditions that no one will be able to explain, that there will be probably no treatment for. There will be psychological damage, physical damage, emotional damage. And then what? Maybe they'll write a check in 10 years. Because they're going to do everything they can to try to, they're going to try to get out of it. They're going to try to get out of it. But are they going to get any support? I mean, see, this is where things get political. And I asked the question, you know, I asked the question about the reflection of, is FEMA's behavior or their lack of support, was it a reflection of this administration? Da, 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 da. I don't know. I mean, for political reasons. I mean, maybe they're going to, because they're supposed to be, because they're of the fraternal Republican brotherhood. Maybe they won't. They'll do less. Uh, it's really disgusting. It's just playing pawns. It's just treating these people's lives and using these people as pawns. That's just my bottom line there. And like I said, it wasn't my intent to talk about this, but it just, the satire wasn't really speaking to me. So I just said, you know what? It's not that I'm trying to make light of anything, but it's, that our government and all these agencies, they lack veracity. To me, the trust of the people, I mean, I just don't know how people can trust anything that goes on with a .gov, ending in .gov. I don't. Because they'll probably send people out there, send their scientists out there from all different parts, and then they'll still probably downplay it. They'll still downplay the results. But the ongoing experiment will be in the people and their children that are affected by this. That's what's going to happen. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. For those who are not who are tuning in. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm just gonna kind of follow that story out of Ohio a little bit more. But then there's more. There's so many things going on. I can't even. This is just one. We talk about this all the time. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in for this 19 minutes and 20 seconds, 21 seconds now. But we'll see. We'll see what tomorrow brings. I'm not sure. Maybe it won't bring anything, but definitely, yeah. This whole, the narrative and the arguments about environmental stuff, and then environmental issues, and then this is the response that you get. I mean, I'm seriously, but I think there's more to come. So I think you should, stay safe out there, and stay, yeah. That's it. That's the least that I can suggest at this point. But you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. Um, well, yeah, 2A there after that too. That's another big one. So you guys hang in there, and I will talk with you later.